From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lead. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on August 11th, 2023, from South Carolina Public Radio studios here in Columbia. Just so you know, some of the information in this podcast may have changed by the time you've heard it. This episode features a look at the latest from the 2024 campaign trail, including who is going to be on the debate stage in Milwaukee on August 23rd. We talk with Maayan Schechter about former President Donald Trump's visit to South Carolina last Saturday. Senator Tim Scott went off on President Joe Biden's comments about essentially declaring climate change a national emergency this week. And we have the latest inflation data for you and an update on hurricane season. The Lead loves hearing from everyone. That's why we have set up a voicemail box that you can call to share your thoughts, hot takes, and questions at 803-563-7169. We'll also be interested in hearing your feedback about the podcast itself. What you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear more or less of. Leave us your name, where you're calling from, and what's on your mind. And if you don't want to be on the pod, just let us know. Call or text 803-563-7169. Thank you. Let's look at some of the latest moves in the 2024 Republican presidential race. Everyone right now is in Iowa or heading there or talking about it or eating something on a stick at the Iowa State Fair, which kicked off this week. The major event is a cherished stop on the calendar for candidates who get to mingle with the people while being swarmed by journalists who follow them around the fair and catch their speeches and odd photos of them eating food on a stick. There's different events put on by the Des Moines Register and or Governor Kim Reynolds and the Iowa State GOP. We'll have a bit of a recap for you in Tuesday's pod because that's literally all that's going on right now, folks. I'm really trying my best. It's the middle of August. We're looking at you, Iowa. Give us some news. I knew I should have gone to the State Fair, AT. I'm sorry, folks. It's my failure there. We went to Miami instead. What do you want from me? Anyway, okay, let's focus on some other things. Republican presidential candidate Senator Tim Scott toured the southern border on August 9th. And this past week, he was on Fox News blasting President Joe Biden for his misstatement on saying that he had already declared climate change a national emergency. Here's what Biden said on the Weather Channel on Tuesday when visiting the Grand Canyon.
Are you prepared to declare a national emergency with respect to climate change?
I've already done that. We've conserved more land. We've we've rejoined the Paris Climate Accord. We've passed a $368 billion climate control facility. We're moving. It is the existential threat to humanity.
So you've already declared that national emergency?
Well, in the practice, you got a bug on you.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. So you've already declared that national emergency?
Practically speaking, yes.
Yeah.
Senator Scott was then asked by Fox News' Brian Kilmeade if he believes the climate change is real and if it's because of the use of fossil fuels. Here's what Scott said.
The climate is obviously changing, but what we should realize, Brian, is that the country that's cut its carbon footprint in half in the last 25 years is America. The best thing to do for the climate is to keep our jobs at home, not to send them to countries like China, India, and Africa that have not impacted their actual carbon footprint. But more importantly, Americans have done the right thing. We continue to do the right thing, but the president has done the wrong thing. He has the wrong focus. He refuses to go to our border. It's just pitiful.
Okay, now I don't know what source Senator Scott was citing for that emissions statistic, but one stat I got from the EPA is that in 2020, U.S. greenhouse gas emissions totaled 5.9 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. This total represents a 7% decrease since 1990 and a 20% decrease since 2005. Now, one last clip from that interview on Fox. Scott was asked that if Trump shows up for the debate, how that changes his strategy. Here was his response.
It doesn't change my strategy very much at all, to be honest with you. I hope President Trump comes to the debate stage and participates. He's a strong debater without any question. It will be entertaining without any question. But the American people deserve to see every single one of us that qualifies for the debate stage on that stage talking about our vision for America and how our presidency would change the tide away from this terrible, disastrous presidency of President Biden.
Speaking of the debate, we are less than 2 weeks away from the August 23rd Republican presidential debate, and Senator Scott and former Governor Nikki Haley have officially met all 3 requirements to participate in the debate. While the two have previously met the polling and fundraising criteria, this week they signed the Republican National Committee pledge to support the Republican nominee, whoever that is. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum have also signed the pledge. And again, this is news because we're still waiting on former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who called the pledge useless, and former Vice President Mike Pence, who just qualified for the debate after finally meeting the fundraising requirement to sign the pledge. Now, former President Donald Trump, who continues to build hype over will he or won't he take the stage, said he will not sign the pledge. So that's that then, unless he goes back on his word, which he'd have to do to take the stage in Milwaukee. Now, in July, RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel told CNN's Chris Walls, quote, "Everybody has to sign the Beat Biden pledge. Everybody. It's across the board. The rules aren't changing. We've been very vocal with them," quote. We're not done with 24 yet, folks. A super PAC tied to Nikki Haley's campaign launched its first ad in Iowa and New Hampshire on August 1st. The $13 million ad buy is part of the first major push into advertising by the PAC. The New York Times reports that SFA Fund Incorporated is pouring $7 million into ads in Iowa and $6.2 million into ads in New Hampshire that will run over the next 9 weeks. The Times continues and says in Iowa, Republican campaigns have spent $31.8 million so far this year, according to the media tracking firm Ad Impact. The $7 million ad campaign would make SFA Fund the second largest spender in the state, behind only Senator Tim Scott's Trust in the Mission PAC, or TIMPAC, which has spent more than $15.3 million. Never Back Down, a super PAC supporting Governor Ron DeSantis, has spent the next highest amount with $3.4 million in ads. Now for Haley, this is all part of a slow and steady approach that they've taken on this campaign so far. Even though, of course, this isn't coordinated with the campaign, technically/legally, but getting earned media, keeping her name in the news. Remember, she managed to do this for several years when she didn't hold any office post the United Nations ambassadorship. And now she's starting to get ads out there as things ramp up after Labor Day, when more people begin paying attention. Here's how she put it recently on CNBC.
At the end of the day, you have to look at what it's going to take. The other candidates have spent millions of dollars. The accountant in me hasn't spent anything because no one's paying attention. The debates start next month. You'll see me on the debate stage. Then things will start to move, and then you'll see those numbers start to shift.
So a slow burn and a hope to catch fire closer to when it matters. But we know that fire needs oxygen, folks, and when there is a certain frontrunner that continues to take it out of the room, well, it's going to take something to catch fire, indeed, for anyone in this race. And that brings us to our conversation with South Carolina Public Radio's Maayan Schechter about Trump's appearance at the SCGOP's Silver Elephant fundraiser dinner on August 5th. We were both there, and of course, we covered some of this in Tuesday's pod, but Maayan Schechter is here in studio with us right now. Maayan, welcome.
Thank you. It's so good to be here, as
I know.
always.
Oh, I love it. Oh, it's
I
so
love
good.
being able to chat about stuff with you guys.
I know, this synergy is here.
That's
She's
right.
a full-blown coworker, not just a
Full-time
friend of
employee,
the pod.
baby.
Yes. Oh, well, Maayan, let's wrap, baby. Let's talk about the Silver Elephant. Like I said, we were both there. I was at the state fairgrounds. Tell us exactly just what it is. I mean, we say fundraiser, but what's the whole point of this big dinner?
Right. It's an annual fundraiser for the South Carolina Republican Party, and they hold it every year around this time. Its inception was in 1967. This is before he was president. Ronald Reagan came and spoke at the inaugural Silver Elephant, but it's become kind of a go-to fundraiser party, who's who, establishment Republicans. It's a good time with usually a live band. So post-party, they can all kind of hang out and schmooze with one another. But it's always an opportunity to hear from a notable Republican, somebody who's up and coming in the ranks, who can talk a little bit about sort of their aspirational goals. Like Kevin McCarthy spoke before he became majority leader.
House
Sarah,
Speaker.
House Speaker. Forgetting my titles. Sarah Huckabee Sanders before she became governor.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a good time for South Carolina Republicans, really.
Not as many people stuck around to dance because we had about an hour and 20 minutes of Trump talking there.
Yeah, I think it was late.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
late by the time we left. So I frankly, I did not have the energy, not that I was going to go dance or anything, but I just can't imagine everybody has that kind of energy at the end of the night.
Yeah. Well, after that speech, Maya, like what jumped out at you, that hour, 20-minute long speech? What were some big takeaways for you?
Honestly, really nothing that he said was a big takeaway for me. I wanted to see how the audience was going to receive him. And what really stood out to me was, honestly, when he walked out on the stage to that song that is played all the time that I'm also blanking on right now, Lee Greenwood, right?
Proud to be an American.
Right. And
that was a test. I passed. I'm still here.
Congrats. And he walked out and he just stood there.
Yeah.
He just stood there watching as everybody stood on their feet, applauded, took out their phones. There was chants of USA. That went on for 2 to 3 minutes?
Yeah, it was solid.
And to me, that was the part that stuck out. A lot of what he talked about was very similar stuff that he has said before, rehashing 2020, slamming the media, greatest hits, showers. It was really the reception. You can't forget about the showers.
Yeah, I heard that shower one. I'm like, we got to put this on the pod.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It was a long, lengthy thing on showers. I think maybe if we really want to talk about the remarks, the electric vehicles riff that he has done before was kind of interesting, obviously, given that the state just invested so much money into bringing or getting Scout to build a manufacturing plant here in the county. To me, really, though, what stuck out was the reception. I think that's what we all wanted to see was how is this crowd going to receive him? And for the most part, they loved him.
This was also an exciting way to see him because the people had chairs. It was temperature controlled. We weren't outside in 100-degree heat and direct sun in July in Pickens or, freezing temperatures in March 2022 in Florence. So it was nice to have temperature control there.
Right.
But you wrote a great piece on southcarolinapublicradio.org about the event, and you also got some additional perspective from folks about Trump's grip on the party, specifically former 7th Congressional District Republican Congressman Tom Rice. Why'd you reach out to Tom Rice? What did he have to say? What's the mood there?
Well, I think Tom Rice is just obviously such an interesting figure when we talk about what is going on with Trump. He was the only South Carolina member of Congress outside of Jim Clyburn, to vote to impeach in the House, the only Republican. And he has been incredibly critical of Trump post-presidency. He really hasn't done a lot of speaking engagements. He hasn't really talked to a lot of reporters since leaving office. And so I just randomly hit him up, I think on a Friday. I think he told me it was his birthday. He was on some kind of fishing trip. And
love someone that answers the phone on a Friday.
Right.
Even if it's a fishing trip and their birthday.
Exactly.
Love that.
And so I said, hey, could we talk a little bit about Trump? He's going to be here in 24 hours. And he said, sure. Unlike Mark Sanford, who has continued to, he obviously came to Silver Elephant.
Yes.
He's continued to be on national television. Tom Rice really hasn't. And he did not show up to Silver Elephant, obviously. So
he's kept that low profile ever since leaving office. We're
very
losing
much
office. Yeah.
Right. Very much so. I think he has definitely accepted that is his last probably run for political office. He doesn't think he could get elected again. And so he is enjoying retirement.
Whereas Mark Sanford shows up at the Silver Elephant, he's talking to the New York Times. I heard him on CNN last night. I was like, this man is just staying in the limelight. He gets a little bit of this. He just keeps going. They keep hitting him up. It's also August, folks. They're looking for a warm body to talk on cable news.
That's right. And there's really, there's not a lot of notable names South Carolinians who are going to go on national television and probably drag the former president's name out. But Tom Rice was very, very critical of the South Carolina Republican Party for hosting Trump. Not quite like some others who were upset that it felt like they were giving more advantage to him over others. But really, that, but also the fact that here's a guy who has now faced his third indictment, second federal indictment. He could be indicted in Georgia. And Rice said that it was a huge disservice to the party. Rice, of course, told me that he is looking at Chris Christie, former New Jersey governor, as somebody that he might vote for. And the reason being is because he has been the most outspoken when it comes to Trump. Rice and I also talked about former Governor Nikki Haley and Senator Tim Scott, who have both sort of kind of danced around Trump. And Rice said he was pretty disappointed with the fact that they were really unwilling to go after him. So yeah, I don't think there's a lot of love lost there, but I was not thrilled with the party for hosting him.
Yeah. And just a little tidbit there that Mark Sanford has $1.3 million still in his congressional campaign finance account, and Tom Rice has $200,000. So, like, should have spent it all on. But really quickly, Mayan, before we get out of this, House Speaker Merle Smith dropped that news that he was endorsing Trump right before Trump showed up. What can we make of this endorsement? What have you heard from folks as to why maybe he picked Trump over someone, say, Senator Tim Scott, who's not facing any federal indictments?
Mm-hmm. You know, obviously for the Trump camp, it's a big name, right, in South Carolina politics, although I don't think most people probably know who Merle Smith is. And I don't mean that as a critical thing, but most people don't know who their state House Speaker is or state Senate president is.
Yeah.
So it's a good get for Trump because it does give him another prominent South Carolinian to point to and say, hey, look at this. I have his endorsement. If I've learned anything from covering the 2020 Democratic presidential primary, and there's a few things I've learned, but one of them is not to put like everything into endorsements. You know, it's obviously good. Speaker Smith can go into Sumter or to other events and talk about Trump. And in his op-ed, he did just that, talked about how great his policies were. But outside of being able to do that, it probably doesn't carry like as much weight. You know, it's different when it's like Governor McMaster or other notable
Lindsey Graham, Russell Fry, those guys.
Right. I mean, it's a good get for him. I just, I don't know if endorsements really matter when it comes to somebody who was already very high up in the polls.
Yeah.
Why did he do it? He lays out in his op-ed that he obviously likes his policies. He did a lot for South Carolina. I'll be honest. I think a lot of people that we've both talked to have kind of questioned why. Because he did show up at that State House leadership announcement that Trump did.
In January when he rolled out,
Right, did not endorse then, but is endorsed now. So I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Either way, it's just something for the Trump campaign to
It'll be interesting to see what he does in terms of any campaigning for Trump, too. So that's when they deploy those guys out there when we get closer to our February 2024 primary. That's a long ways away, though. We don't have to worry about that yet. Not yet.
Is it?
Not yet. Not yet. Well, thank you, Mayan. We appreciate you catching up with us.
Thanks so much, guys.
And before we get out of the pod, we have some updates for you. First up, we got new inflation numbers for you. Everyone loves talking about inflation. That's right. For the month of July, we saw inflation actually tick up to 3.2%, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Almost all the monthly inflation increase came from shelter costs, which rose 0.4% and were up 7.7% from a year ago. Real wages adjusted for inflation increased 0.3% on the month and were up 1.1% from a year ago. Now, core consumer price index data, which removes volatile food and energy prices, came in at 4.7%. Both CPI and core CPI were up 0.2% from June, so a little data for you there.
I understand.
And another update for you. We are updating you, folks. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration released an updated forecast for the 2023 hurricane season, increasing their prediction from a near normal activity level to an above normal activity level, folks. That's right. The original forecast issued in May predicted a 30% chance of above normal conditions. Now it stands at 60% as hurricane season moves through. Current conditions like record warm Atlantic sea surface temperatures have the potential to counteract El Niño conditions. The outlook for 2023 now calls for 14 to 21 storms. Those are storms with winds of 39 miles per hour or greater. 6 to 11 storms are predicted to be categorized as hurricanes, of which 2 to 5 could become major hurricanes. Remember, it just takes one storm, folks. Now, this update includes storms that have already formed this season, and the 6-month hurricane season runs from June 1st through November 30th. And right now, we're in the busiest part of it. August and September account for the highest activity of the season. So be aware, be alert, get that go bag ready, ready.gov. Now, there is a 95% chance that El Niño will continue through the Northern Hemisphere winter, according to the Climate Prediction Center. El Niño typically results in atmospheric conditions that decrease tropical activity during the Atlantic hurricane season. Those conditions have been slow to develop this year, and climate scientists are predicting that the associated impacts that limit storm activity may not be in place for the rest of the season. So keep your eyes open, and also below normal wind shear conditions, slightly below normal Atlantic trade winds, and near or above normal West African monsoon features are also shaping this updated seasonal forecast. So be ready, folks. Be ready for anything. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news, and we're glad you're here.
Oh, thank you.
I'm also super glad that not only is AT Shire, our
Not
producer
just me,
here,
no.
not just AT, but Amy Crouch, my producer from the TV side of
Illustrious.
SCTV.
She's getting a taste.
Everyone's here.
I am overwhelmed right now.
Amy.
I feel so special.
It's been a minute. When was the last time Amy was on the wind down?
It was a
with us?
while ago.
It
I think she's been on one or
was.
two before.
But I can't remember what it was about at this point.
I can't either. 'Cause
I'm only thinking of Abby and like the hottest takes that we got from Abby.
Yes, those were
we can
great.
we can only have Abby on like once a year because
Yeah.
it's like so scorching.
That actually might be too much.
Amy could live on here, and it's fine. But anyway, we have Amy on here because we have two voicemails that there's a lot of overlap here. And so you'll see when we're through the voicemails, there's no one better than Amy to answer these questions. So are you ready for the first call?
I guess ask Amy.
Amy?
Roll it, AT.
I need an affirmative. I need your attention.
We have to turn the keys at the same time.
3, 2, 1, and
I forgot. What, do we do on one?
Here we go.
Hello, this is Nicole from Irmo. I was listening to the lead and you were talking about the great summer blockbusters, but honestly, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about Indiana Jones, which you even talked about on the show, but not the one that I saw. I saw the new one, and I'm blanking on the name, of course, but I actually liked it, and I was nervous about it because of Crystal Skull. But this one, there was one glaring obvious issue with it. But other than that, it was everything you want out of an Indiana Jones movie. And I very much enjoy it and recommend it. Much better than Crystal Skull. Sorry for all of you fans out there. But other than that, I'm just, trying to stay cool. Cold is impossible. Cool is attainable. And I hope everyone else out there is too, and hope you guys stay cool and enjoy your time.
Thanks for calling, Nicole from Irmo. Thanks for staying cool, baby. Yeah. We're going to talk about movies in a moment.
Yes,
correct?
so that was the
so we're
first
going to put a pin in that, Nicole. We got some things we want to talk about.
I do want it on the
Crystal
record.
Skull, though.
I'm a defender of Crystal Skull.
This is so wild for me. I mean,
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Exactly. It's fine.
It's not bad like everyone acts.
I've never seen it.
Have you seen the other Indiana Jones, Amy?
The first three, yeah.
Okay,
you go.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's
the
fine.
classics.
There you go.
They're kind of all classics.
No, they're not all,
They're not as
all
classic.
classics.
I
No.
still have dreams about the snakes in the pit.
Yeah, that's the first one. That's a great
And
movie.
the faces
So good.
melting off and the heart coming out of the chest.
But that is
and
much more
everything
believable
happening.
than the end of Crystal Skull, obviously. Anyway, here's the next call. Are you ready?
I think so.
Ready.
Okay, here we go.
Ready.
Oh, this feels special. Hey, Gavin. Hey, AT. This is Adam Rogers, longtime listener, first-time caller. Love the work you boys have been doing. Just love everything that is anything to do with you two and your friendship, because it's blossoming and it's been beautiful to see. Or listen to, rather, because that's the medium that we're working with here. Hey, so I had a question for Gavin. Hope you guys can cover this. Gavin, I'm just wondering what your favorite Denzel movie is. It's important to me just to know that, to get a better sense of you as a person, and that sort of helps me trust you and the news that you deliver. Hope everything's good. See you guys.
Adam Rogers, thank you for calling. Yes, AT is a great work friend,
So
colleague.
mean, so rude. This is also
That's a South of Spooky,
it's a
guys. That's a
Spooky
South of
reference,
Spooky
okay?
reference right there.
So with all these calls, and I do want
I have to answer his question
Well,
first,
we're going
AT.
to get to it. We're going to get to it,
It's
okay?
very specific, though.
I want to talk about
Sorry, Adam.
favorite movies, favorite blockbusters. And I also want on the table that Adam is one of my best friends. We went to college, and he was one of my best men.
So you had a ringer call in.
This
So
was
you
a
did.
ringer,
Wow.
yeah, because I was talking to my college friends about how I saw Indiana Jones on TV, and it ruined my day because I had to sit there and watch Indiana Jones.
Of course.
Like,
Of
I was
course.
like,
Which one was it?
it was the end of the first one, start of the second
Oh.
one. And so I was like, shoot. Now,
Lost Ark into Temple of
the rest
Doom?
of my day is screwed. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
For the
faces had just melted.
Everyone's
and then,
faces had just
and
melted
then
off.
the dancing started, you know?
Oh, yeah. And the best part about a TV movie is like the opening's always like the longest part. There's no commercials for like 10 minutes. You're like, well, I'm here now.
Yeah, and then every 10 minutes
Anyway,
afterwards.
I
Yeah,
wanted to
never.
know what some of our favorite blockbusters were, favorite Denzel movie, and then what's a movie, if you see it on TV, you're stopping. Your plans are ruined. And Amy had questions. She had answers.
I was
Bam, bam, bam.
ready. Yeah.
So, Gavin, let's have your favorite Denzel Washington movie
so
first.
interesting question there from Adam Rogers. It took me a minute to think about this. I had to look it up a little bit because I'm not like the biggest Denzel guy. But you said Remember the Titans. I thought he was terrific in that.
Not my favorite, though.
Love Crimson Tide.
Yeah, great movie.
Very tense. I haven't seen Training Day, so no one hold that against me.
Oh, just watched it.
And The Pelican Brief.
Really good.
Which is like The Net, but like...
But with Julia Roberts.
With Julia Roberts, right?
My favorite is Inside Man, okay? And Amy, what are you saying?
I'm going to say Remember the Titans.
Fine choice. Great movie.
But I did just for the first time see Training Day.
Good movie, too.
And I really liked it.
It was very good.
I should have said The Preacher's Wife because Whitney Houston. But
okay.
We'll leave it there.
So now let's get to movies, blockbuster movies that are on TV going to ruin your afternoon. We're talking the Shawshank Redemptions of the world. We're talking Forrest Gumps, okay? Amy, what do you have?
Well, this is not just something that's going to make me stop and watch on television.
It's going to make you
cry.
think. Going to make you think.
It's going to make me laugh. It's going to make me cry. It's going to make me scared. In 1994, I watched this movie 3 times in the movie theater. That's how much I loved it. And it is called Armageddon.
Oh, my God! Did you show her the figurine that Sean got?
Yes.
For your birthday?
I got an action figure of Harry Stamper, Bruce
Amy,
Willis.
what does Bruce Willis say to Ben Affleck right before he sends him back up into the spaceship? What's he say?
Take care of my daughter?
You're going to make it. But I'm not going to make it, but you will. Something like that. That's
Well,
all I remember.
I'm not gonna make
Aerosmith
it.
plays.
Yeah.
My
So
problem
bad.
was when I told AT this, he was making fun that it was a very predictable movie.
Yeah.
And I disagree.
You said it was tense.
it
And
was
I was like,
tense
there's no
and
tension.
suspense.
Was it 94?
It was 98. I think.
98.
Okay.
98.
98.
Okay.
98.
Yeah. I got
Still,
confused between
the
what
passion, it doesn't matter.
you
You don't need to worry
you
about
didn't
this.
know he was going to die. That was very
know.
You
suspenseful.
didn't know that,
I know.
but you weren't thinking he was going to
Well,
die.
I
so
mean,
you weren't
Exactly. So it made it very suspenseful when he did die.
Based on a true story.
It's real.
Based on a
okay?
true story.
Gavin, do you have any?
Yeah, so you kind of just teased it. Forrest Gump. I was over at a friend's
Yes.
house the other day. It's a little bit. It's a lazy Sunday after a long Saturday. I walk in and midway through Forrest Gump is on, and you're just like,
I'm watching it.
I gotta watch it.
I'm
now.
watching it.
And I think it's super fascinating because I was looking it up while we were watching it. Huge blockbuster in '94. Had just come out like after The Lion King, which was also a huge blockbuster.
Big year.
Like, it took a lot. Remember, like, what happened? We used to have these blockbusters all the time. Now it's like another Marvel.
Yes.
And now like Barbie's blowing everyone away, so it's like that's exciting to see blockbusters, original blockbusters like Oppenheimer too,
Yeah.
which I'm going to see on Sunday. No spoilers.
I saw Barbie last week.
You weren't excited about it, right?
I mean, it was really cute, but I wouldn't run out to the movie theater.
I mean, it's a movie I'm going to watch at home.
Now, the problem with watching movies at home, especially if you're not watching it on a streaming service, talking about the commercials, these 2-hour movies take 3.5 hours out of your time.
And that gets to my favorite movies. It's obviously the Lord of the Rings movies. Whenever they're on TV, those are 4.5. 5-hour movies, and they ruin it, and it ruins my day because I'm going to watch it.
I mean, I just
in
no.
other movies that I'll stop and watch any Indiana Jones, maybe including
Obviously.
Crystal Skull,
Crystal's
any
good.
James Bond movie,
Not any.
and
not any.
well, I mean not like the Timothy Dalton ones or like whatever
Timothy
the good
Dalton
ones.
Shade. He's a big listener.
and National Treasure
yeah, Gavin.
Oh,
or
wow.
The Mummy, right?
Wow.
Months of adventure
Mummy is
movies.
good.
So mine are old school
Yeah.
Yeah.
and probably The Wedding Crasher, really. Just those two genres. I'm a big,
I love The Shining.
Vince
I'll watch The
Vaughn.
Shining. I'm
Oh,
watching
well,
The
The
Shining.
Shining plays at your
I'm
house
gonna
all
say-
the time,
yes,
right?
it's
Yes,
always on
it's for
loop.
me
We
to
never
keep
leave.
me calm.
I'm going to say these are also big hangover movies too.
I mean, what's the
That's on it-
difference? There's no
Exactly.
difference here.
You don't have to think.
No.
Yes.
And
I know them so well.
Something like
Ace
Forrest Gump,
Ventura's.
like you can just recite those lines.
Dumb and Dumber.
Intonations, like everything.
Spinal Tap.
Talladega Nights, The
Talladega.
Legend of Ricky Bobby.
It's so good.
So great.
Anyway, Nicole, thank you for calling.
Yes, great conversation
Adam,
here.
you're what a mensch, Adam. What a great guy. This is the only way I could get him to listen. Anyway, Gavin, say goodbye. Hit the credits. Amy, you're amazing. We'll have you on again. If anyone else can think of any movies they like, please let us know.
Yeah, 803-563-7169. Be like Adam or Nicole. Let us know what you stop, drop, and watch when it's on TV. Or maybe you just turn it on because you want to watch it. 803-563-69. And also, thank you for listening to the pod. You can show us your appreciation by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. And stay up to date with the latest news on sctv.org and South Carolina Public Radio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. for the South Carolina lead. I'm Gavin Jackson, Be Well, South Carolina. I think I just gave myself pink eye by putting my eye on this.
Yep, those aren't clean.
Oh.
Those aren't clean.
Oh.